Welcome to Clicks and Coffee. I'm Alexander, and here we dive deep into the journeys of entrepreneurs and marketing innovators. Each episode, we uncover the challenges, triumphs, and unique strategies of our amazing guests, giving you valuable insights and inspiration. Our goal is to build a community of growth oriented professionals ready to learn, collaborate, and thrive in the ever evolving world of digital marketing. So, whether you're here for the latest trends or looking for that next big idea, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. And today we're bringing in Dennis Chmiel, the co-founder and chief medical innovation officer at My Simple Pet Lab, the company that's taking the stress out of pet care one simple test at a time. Whether you're a pet parent or a pet pro, Dennis has made it easier than ever to keep your furry friends in top shape. Let's dig how he's simplifying vet visits one lab test at a time and making life a little easier for both pets and their humans.
Alex,
Dennis,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
thanks for being here. So, made it pretty interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about your career and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm a veterinarian by trade, and I did what you expect most veterinarians to do, which is clinical practice. For the first third of my career, I was treating dogs, cats, and all sorts of exotic species. And loved it. Did that for about 13 years, and managed a medical practice, a 4 to 5 doctor practice during those years. And over that time, I got really interested in the importance of business and veterinary medicine, and I really came to understand that really to practice really good medicine, you had to work in an environment that supported good business, and vice versa. That improved the culture of the practice. It improved the ability to deliver really good services for pet parents. And so with that, I did an MBA, got a business degree, and landed then
Simply,
in
simply did an MBA.
that's right. That's right. And that landed me in corporate America, working for Pfizer Animal Health, which is now called Zoetis. And so the second phase of my career was there in a variety of different things, from supporting science discussions in the field with veterinarians on a variety of products, from vaccines to anesthesia products to other sorts of pharmaceuticals. But as well, I did a lot of work in technology development, supporting the development of different products that supported pet health, and as well I did some years in marketing, and I quarterbacked the launch of a feline parasiticide called Revolution Plus, which is a product, a topical product that you use for cats to keep fleas and ticks and intestinal parasites away. So that was my career prior to My Simple Pet Lab.
And so, how did you come up with the idea of My Simple Pet Lab? What you know made you want to start this business? Because it's doesn't look like a simple business, but it seems like a great idea.
Yeah, isn't it true, right, in life and in business, that oftentimes the simplest things are the most complex, right? That it's really hard to make something simple. That's truly the case, here as well. But myself and my co-founder, who's also a veterinarian, Dr. Nancy Willerton, and longtime a friend of mine. We worked together in some different ways over about 25 years. But what we came to believe was that there was a growing challenge for access to pet healthcare, and there's a whole number of different variables that make it hard to get pets the care they need when they need it, and sometimes in a way that's even affordable, for the pet parents. And we were inspired by what was happening in human healthcare, seeing Ancestry in the 90s, and 23andMe in the early 2000s, and then Cologuard, right, where you could take really a sample, like a stool sample from a person, and send it through the mail and get results directly, right, on colon cancer. And that, and while as an example there, well, a colonoscopy is still, as I understand it, regarded as, you know, the gold standard approach for detecting colon cancer in people. For a variety of reasons, not everyone gets a colonoscopy, and so being able to use a product from home, a test kit from home, to be able to help get to those answers can help, you know, identify, you know, a really serious, you know, problem in people. So we were seeing companies like that in human healthcare really start to improve access to care. And then, of course, right, COVID happened, and through the COVID experience, we all learned that you could do a legitimate, a credible, scientific diagnostic test either from home or at home, right? And at home meaning that you could do those COVID antigen tests and get results right away on your kitchen countertop, or from home where you'd do the PCR test and send it off to the lab, get results back that you could share with a virtual or local physician. And so all that, we launched in 2019, we launched My Simple Pet Lab prior to COVID, but certainly through that COVID experience, you know, the public really learned that, you know, being able to do a test from home that had clinical credibility was a real thing. And so why should that just be for people, right? That should also be for pets too. And so that was really our passion, which was to make these important tests for pets more accessible to the pet parent, and do them in a way that was that would be approved by veterinary providers.
It makes me feel a little more comfortable to know that both of you are vets and you develop the products, you know, and online. And it's true, because everything that is, you know, medically related or medical is always stressful to make sure that we're doing something good. So knowing that we, you know, have a real scientific backing is great. It's great for that. So before we get into the nitty gritty of everything, I have one question that everybody's, I'm sure, wondering. Are you a dog or a cat person, or both?
Right, I have to answer both, right, to that. But I'll to be honest, I lean a little bit more toward a dog. My wife is also a veterinarian. She leans a little bit more toward cat.
Okay, so
So
it's
I guess we're allowed to,
both
like,
family.
right, we're allowed to have those. We have my wife and I, we have dogs. We have a cat, and we also have a leopard gecko and a couple of rabbits that have taken over a whole room in our house. So how's that for?
Interesting, a gecko. Yeah, no, that's a pretty good mix. And it's funny because rabbits, I'm hearing more and more people that have rabbits as pets. Actually, I have like
Right?
two very good friends that they have cats and rabbits, which I thought that would be such a weird combination, but no problem.
Right, I know it's really interesting how sometimes the different species can live under the same roof and all be a happy family. So our rabbits
Exactly.
are great examples of that. They're not bothered at all by our cat or either one of our dogs.
That's too funny. All right. So how exactly does your are your product, because it's multiple tests, and so how does it work, and why should people, you know, use your products rather than like going to a vet, for example?
Yeah, and I think you know it's a good call out there, and that it doesn't you know have to be an either or, and we don't want it to be. We, you know, our belief is that every pet should have and pet parent should have a relationship with a primary care veterinarian, and so that is really fundamental. Now, that said, we know that not everyone does. There's a large percentage of the population that doesn't have a primary care veterinarian for their pet, and there's a variety of reasons for that. Some people are nervous about going to a vet, like they're just like nervous about going to a
Really? Wow.
clinic or a hospital. They're also sometimes worried about what the cost would be, that can be a real fear, or that while they may be going in for one thing, does that lead to a recommendation for other things? Do they find out something about their pet that maybe they didn't want to find out about their pet? So, and then there's other real concerns too, real access issues like transportation, right? Just because there's a clinic local to your community or local in your community doesn't mean that you can get to it. Maybe you don't have easy transportation. Maybe you've got a physical disability, or maybe you just have a job that doesn't allow you to just leave to go to the vet clinic whenever your pet needs. So variety of reasons, but our hope would be, of course, that everyone has a primary care veterinarian. But there's also times when people that have primary care vets are traveling, or they can't get into their primary care veterinarian based on that veterinarian's schedule, right? Or their own schedule. And so, having diagnostics that are available to get started in advance of getting to the veterinarian, or as a way to start the problem-solving process that potentially could either lead to a solution, maybe that's an over-the-counter solution, or maybe that's a solution that gets them to a virtual veterinarian or to a local veterinarian. We see like all these sorts of journeys play out in the marketplace, and we're supportive of that. Certainly, when we deliver results, we really encourage pet parents to share their results with a veterinarian, and we make that easy to do. But we also, recognize the reality of the world, and that some people, are solving problems, without the help of a local or virtual vet. And so, as a result, how do we help them do that in a way that is authentic, that they're having tests done that they can trust, that they can rely on, and that they can use to help solve their pet's problem?
And so let's say that, I want to use one of your tests. How does it work? So we go on the website, we buy whichever test we want to do. It gets there in a couple of days. And then how long does it take from like sending it back to getting the results usually?
Yeah, so the tests that we have in market today are stool tests for dogs and cats, and cytology tests for dogs and cats. So a stool test is simply what we would call as a veterinarian a fecal O&P in Giardia ELISA. What that means is that it's basically the standard stool test that every veterinarian runs when they're checking a pet's stool sample. And so we do that for dogs and for cats. And cytology tests, what those are for ear infections for dogs and cats, and for skin irritations for dogs, like hot spots. And what those tests determine is whether the infection is a yeast infection or it's a bacterial infection. That, of course, can lead to different treatment options, right? So if it's a yeast infection, then you treat with an antifungal. If it's a bacterial infection, you treat with an antibiotic. So these tests are most commonly purchased from Amazon from us. So that's the most common retail purchase. You can also purchase from our .com. So if you purchase from the .com, they go out priority USPS, so they're in your hands within 2 to 3 days. These are tests that are not intended for emergency use or for urgent care. They're intended for pets that have initial concerns or
You have a
recurring
doubt.
concerns.
Let me check instead of like scheduling a visit or whatever. Let me just check that with your test, and then okay, there is a problem. Let's go to the vet.
Yes,
Right?
and vets all know exactly what to do with these results. So when you walk into a clinic and you bring in with you stool test results, or you bring in with you cytology results, tests are already done. That means that vet doesn't have to then send those samples out to get them done, and they know exactly what to do, with those results. So when you actually have the test in your hands, we include a mailer, a USPS priority mailer that's 2 to 3 days back to the lab, and results are typically delivered within one business day, almost always same day.
And that through an app or directly on your website?
So our website's mobile responsive, and pet parents have a digital dashboard. So there's a whole technology platform that we spent years building and developing to support all of this, because it didn't exist. It wasn't like we can just go and off the shelf buy a technology platform to do this thing, because it wasn't the thing. And so what we've created is a digital dashboard for pet parents that allows them, right from their phone or from their email to get in, see the results, and not just see the results, but see the results in a way that they can engage with and interpret. So we provide a legend to help a pet parent understand, like, this is normal, this is not normal, or this is in between, like this is a caution. And then we provide a whole learning center for pet parents to understand what an abnormal, say, yeast count could mean for a dog's ear, as an example. So we really help pet parents, get right to what the abnormalities are, if there are abnormalities, and then what that means, so that they can either take action themselves, or they can share the results with a virtual or a local veterinarian, and really feel, I think, informed to be able to ask the right questions, and get to what everybody wants, which is, a good outcome for the pet.
And so I heard you mentioning Amazon. So the way, because we're in a digital marketing podcast, so what's interesting is also talking about anybody listening to the podcast and trying to get into a similar business, so a pet business. But so you created the product, and then so it seems to me that the main sales channel is going to be Amazon for you guys.
We're actually split. So,
Oh.
and I'll say it this way, that let's say basically 50% of our business right now is retail, so direct to consumers, like through Amazon. That's our primary channel, where it seems that pet parents are really trying to problem solve, for their pet, and getting to our tests that way. We also, the other really half of our business is working directly with veterinarians, and providing test kits through them, because there are, it was our belief, and Yancy and I early on, that we wanted veterinarians to be able to utilize test kits from home in their healthcare delivery model. So we didn't want to have them really be left out of the advantages of what home testing can offer. And so in this way, what veterinarians, the way in which they often use our test kits is post-treatment. So what that means, say, as a good example would be, a dog comes in for an ear infection, and that veterinarian does the cytology under their microscope, provides treatment, and they send that pet parent home. Now, in almost all circumstances, that veterinarian historically will recommend that pet parent come back and have that cytology redone in the clinic 2 weeks later or 4 weeks later. What we do with these veterinarians instead is that veterinarian sends home the test kit, and when the treatment is done, the pet parent just collects the samples and sends them in from home. And then the veterinarian also gets the results with the pet parent. They get the same results. And that veterinarian then can decide, based on those results, like, okay, the treatment worked. You're fine. You can stay home. You don't need to take time off work. You don't need to, pull your dog back in the car. You don't need to wait in our waiting room, right? Like all that. But if not, like if the treatment didn't work, then we've got an evidence-based, really rationale for, okay, like it does make sense, for you to make the effort to get back in here and for us to, reassess the ears. So that's the most common, I'd say, journey in which veterinarians work. But it's, yeah, we're really split between what we do direct to consumer to improve access in that way, but also improve testing access in a very different way, which is through veterinarians post-treatment.
I know that I didn't think about it like that, and it makes a lot of sense because one of the thing, and even for humans, what we hate doing is going back to
Right.
just do a check-in or something like that. So being able to do it at home, that's a big plus.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think like
yeah,
a lot of us feel like, and like from a physician standpoint and a veterinarian standpoint, we always feel like, oh, if the patient comes back in and we're like, hey, great, everything's good, thumbs up, that's like a win, which it is, but oftentimes to that person that came in and
yeah,
had to go through the inconvenience of coming in, they're just like, oh, I should have just stayed home, right?
yeah. Why am I coming? Why am I coming?
Exactly.
And on top of that, it depends also because a dog is easy. You just put the leash on the dog and go to the vet. But when you have a cat, that can
Ah,
be, it's a little
yes.
bit more problematic because you have to make sure they get into the carrier and then bring them. And anyways,
Right. And
but
and
yeah.
even some dogs, like there's a lot of dogs that get
Oh,
motion sick, so they puke in the car. So that's a
oh, yeah.
thing, right? And then there's the dogs that are, they don't like other dogs or they're nervous around other people. And so it's yeah, it's surprising actually, like the number of like pet parents with dogs who just have dogs that are just like,
Yeah, don't like
for one
don't
reason or
like to
another.
move. But this
Exactly.
one she loves. Like if we can go in, if she could go in the car every day, she would.
Nice, nice. That's great. That's what you want, right? That's
Yeah, yeah, no, no, exactly. I'm pretty lucky on that one. And so and so we all know, with the, I would say, like the advent of Chewy and so many brands that really blew
yeah.
up, I would say in the last 10 years, the market is getting very saturated. It's like becoming very increasingly, harder to make a dent or get your product out there. So how do you manage with my simple pet lab to cut through the noise, and I would say, and like being in the front of people, because everybody's, and I'm sure vets are bombarded every day with like, oh, what about this, and we can help you with this software, and we can help you with this product, and we can help you with this food, and then you come and it's like, have this. So how did you guys manage to get such a name in the industry?
Yeah, it's hard, right? All that's hard, quite frankly. But on the retail side, we've uh, been able to have good success over time, like learning about how to manage keywords, right, on Amazon, and how to put our products onto Amazon in a way that when people get to the page, they engage more, they're more likely to purchase. The reason being is, of course, like we're getting better at explaining what it is and what the value of it is, I think. So, like as an example, we did some keyword changes on one of our products recently, and it was a surprising change and uptick of people that stayed on the page and purchased. Right, so that's takes learning over time, and helping people. I think is part of that, recognizing that purchases on Amazon were, based on looking at sort of what other products people were looking at on Amazon that were related or in the same basket as ours. It came to really start to understand, at least for us, that people purchasing on Amazon are trying to problem solve, and so that's helped us, with keywords and putting the products in the best, I think, possible way, at least where we are today. I'm sure we can do better over time. So there's that, and then also, just working with other smaller retailers as well, getting our products, where pet parents are spending time, purchasing other products. On the animal health side, that has its own unique challenges of, to your point, like trying to get in front of medical professionals is not easy, right? Because they're overwhelmed, they're too busy, and oftentimes, like when they get too busy, rather than looking for solutions that would help them be operationally more efficient or to provide better care, sometimes they're just trying to put their heads down and like get through their day, right? Just get through their medical records and see all the patients that are on their schedule. So we really had to, over time, learn how to provide a compelling message in terms of a variety of value propositions, from operational efficiency. This can make your life easier. This is what pet parents want, right? This is what they're starting to expect and demand because of what they're seeing in human healthcare. And then also over time, as we start to get traction with animal health providers, using that traction to help show other animal health providers, hey, like this is how it works over here, or this is how we're seeing success over here. As an example, pets gets to go home with pet parents in that what we call recheck journey that I explained before with the post ear infection treatment. We'll see 75% compliance on that without reminders, meaning that 75% of pet parents will send the cytology test
Mhm.
back in. That is far higher already, even without reminders, than those professionals are getting for compliance today, right? Because they have to get that pet back in, right? Which at best happens 25% of the time. And then of that,
Mhm.
a smaller percentage of those are getting cytology. So we can actually practice better medicine for those pets because that data can be really important to know when to stop treatment. So it's complex, right? Because like in different channels, like you have different types of customers that are engaging with us, and quite honestly, it's been a multi-year process of learning and developing and making the technology better, iterating the kits over time to help them so that they say the words we need them to say in the right ways at the right time. But man, it's not easy, Alex.
And refining also the message, because it sounded to me that as you went, you realize, or you had an idea on how people were using the products, and then realized that that was not exactly how people were looking at it, and then really paying attention to that, and optimizing how you present the product. And that's good, a good CRO, I would say, a conversion rate optimization process, to listen to what people are doing and saying, and not being stubborn about how you want to present your product.
Oh my gosh, like that's so right. And I can think of a number of examples of that over the years. And an example that maybe could kind of highlight that we're dealing with a little bit more recently was uh, with stool samples in dogs and cats. Pet parents will look at a stool sample and see worms, or perceive that they've seen worms that may end up turning out to be like something that is not worms. And so they'll send in a stool sample and have it checked, and that stool sample will be negative for worms. It'll be a normal sample, and that can create some confusion with the pet parents. Like, oh my gosh, I saw worms. Why isn't the lab seeing worms? And so over time, like we've become better at, one, teeing up the lab to know, like, hey, this pet parent saw worms. We'll do, we'll put an extra note in on the lab results to help the pet parent recognize that, hey, we heard you, that you saw worms, and we're responsive to that. But then if we didn't see worms, then providing them with the right education as to why that might be. And there's a variety of reasons for that. But just to your point, Alex, like over time, you learn, like, especially when you don't have, like through Amazon, like if you don't have a veterinarian in the mix, like, interpreting lab results for a pet parent, and they're interpreting it themselves, we've had to get really better over time as to helping pet parents understand, like, all right, like how do you interpret lab results in the context of maybe the symptoms that you're seeing at home, or the changes in a sample that you've seen.
Yeah, no, that's always the big challenge is when you have, I would say, this kind of product is how can you make it simple for people to understand? Because it's,
Right.
veterinarians, they do years of studies, so they get the info and then the years of practice. And, it's not because we buy a kit and we look at the result that we understand exactly what it means.
Right,
Uh,
right, and oftentimes,
uh,
like, when you're getting, like, say, lab results, from your own, like, healthcare provider, oftentimes those lab results, come to you in physician language, and right, and so now you're on Google and trying to figure. We like, part of the magic of, like, what we do as a company is we were committed from the very beginning to speak in one language, both to the pet parent and to the veterinarian. So to make sure that we could be simple enough and clear enough for a pet parent to engage with, but also give the veterinarian everything that they need without the use of unnecessary sort of acronyms and language that just is uninterpretable, by someone who wasn't trained,
doesn't-
in that language.
exactly. Yes. And so do you have any upcoming projects that you would like to share for My Simple Pet Lab?
Yeah, so today, as I shared with tests, we focus on sample types that are supporting stool testing for dogs and for cats, so fecal testing, as well as cytology testing for ears and skin. Remember, that's yeast versus bacteria. Next up on our list is, oh, I see a little fuzzy head, like, coming into the
Yeah,
camera. Uh, oh, look at that! Whoa!
a little rescue.
Oh, that's fabulous. Um, what we have coming up next, this will be in 2025, our urine test kits. Our our lab is in Denver, Colorado, and we're a focus lab, a specialty lab. We just focus on specific test types. We don't try to do everything for everybody. We really specialize in these types of tests and processing these samples in the right ways. And we'll be adding urine testing to that about mid-2025. So that's for both dogs and cats. You could do urine testing from home. That's an important test type for both routine wellness screening as well as symptoms, like symptoms of urinary tract infections or urinary stones, blood in urine, things like that. So there's our lab is also heavily involved in research. And so we put out studies to help support sample transport from the home environment. And so there's a little bit more research to finish up and get out there publicly before we launch those urine tests. But we're really excited to get to that. It's a sample type that is going to be, I think, very popular in the marketplace.
And so the idea with your company is going to be to have, I would say, reactive tests, and then also have proactive tests, such as you said, the routine test, which is very important, and we do it for ourselves, so why don't we do it for pets?
Exactly. Yeah. Like our
But
fecal
from
tests today, our
home.
stool tests today are used both in routine wellness screening. So for, like, the annual stool test that a veterinarian does, our tests are used regularly for that, but are also used reactively for soft stool or diarrhea to rule out, because the first thing a
Mm.
veterinarian does is to make sure that it's not a worm that's causing the soft stool or the diarrhea.
No,
Um,
of course.
and so urine will be positioned similarly, both for routine screening and also reactive to symptoms.
And so, throughout your career, you were a veterinarian, you were a corporate development person, and now you are a e-commerce entrepreneur. What was the hardest part, I would say, of launching products like this, and on your basically on your own, and launching the product and then marketing it? What was the hardest part that you find in the process?
Yeah, I all the stuff that I wasn't trained on, which is most especially like that e-commerce and the retail piece. And really, we when we initially launched the company, we were under a different name. The brand looked very different. In 2021, we brought in a third partner. Who's now our CEO, Jen Hagnes, who came from retail and CPG, and so she really understood that environment. Made all the difference in the world because we really were able to now redo the brand in a way that made it much more relatable and accessible to the consumer. So as a veterinarian, like I certainly can appreciate like what I'm good at and what I'm not. And I'm now in my current role as the medical innovation officer, I'm much more comfortable in the being on the lab science medical side of the business. Back in the early days, I was definitely stretched outside of my comfort zone in areas that I was very much below average at doing.
You know, I can imagine that now having that trio helps, everybody focus on what they are good at and what can really move the needle.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Um,
And our larger team, right? Like over time, right? Can bring in colleagues with specialized expertise, like whether it's from the lab to to supply chain, to marketing and other operations, technology, right? Like you start to pull in those experts, and it helps me get to a place where like I'm expert again and not so non-expert.
so I have a question that I always ask that could be an entire podcast over cocktail or coffee, whatever whatever you like. But um, what are you worried about in the world of digital marketing, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, uh, I'm excited that we, from an impact standpoint, right? There's the prediction is 75 million pets by 2030 will not have access to the pet healthcare that they need in this country. There's
Wow.
not enough veterinarians. There's not enough veterinary technicians. In addition to some of the access barriers we talked about earlier. And so I'm most excited about being part of a variety of entrepreneurs that are trying to make veterinary healthcare more accessible in a variety of different ways. We obviously specialize on the diagnostic side, but so I'm excited to be part of that. What I'm worried about is what you mentioned earlier, which is just being able to generate the awareness to these opportunities, both in direct to consumer and also in animal health. Like it's hard, right, to find
But getting
that to get your
so you,
voice heard, right?
so yeah, so it's the issue of more and more people getting online, more and more people starting brands, and it's going to make it increasingly difficult, basically. And a lot of the time what I hear is also the problem with AI generated content that basically floods the content online and kind of, like you said, blocks authentic good content made by people that know what they are talking about unheard
Right.
because they are so flooded by other content that are not as relevant. So
Right, right. By working, with directly with animal health, we think that will help us over the coming decades because, when you are in front of a veterinarian, whether that's virtually or locally, and a veterinarian says, "Hey, like I'd avoid this thing or this type of product, but I would lean you toward this thing or this type of product," that can go a long way, right? Like veterinary recommendations are still like very powerful, and so we've always believed that part of how we would differentiate is by becoming over time trusted by veterinarians. And if you're trusted by veterinarians, then that will help pet owners, understand like where they can best get this type of service. So that's
No, super.
what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
seeing so far with the traction we have, but we have a lot of work to do to really continue to grow in that way.
No, but I was super excited to talk to you, discover My Simple Pet Lab. So anybody that has pets or thinking of having pets, know that you can go on mysimplepetlab.com and just take a look or shop for your pets. Also at your local veterinarians, maybe, or if your
That's right.
veterinarians doesn't know, maybe you should talk to them
Absolutely. Right.
about it, because that's the whole point. But no, Dennis, thank you so much. It was great. The pet world is always very talked about online, so it was great to have your insight and hear your story.
Alex, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful for that.